Hey there, and welcome to Get Career Curious, the podcast that gives you the inside scoop on careers, what it takes to get there, and what the job is really like. Today, I'm beyond excited because we have an extra special guest, one of my personal heroes, Haleigh Washington. Now, if you don't know who Haleigh is, buckle up. She's an Olympic gold medalist, yes, gold, a pro volleyball star with LOVB Volleyball and Team USA, and one of the coolest, most positive people you'll ever meet. Haleigh's known for absolutely dominating on the court and for being super real about what it takes to get there. Hard work, resilience, and a whole lot of heart. If you ever dreamed about playing sports at a high level or just want to know what it's really like to chase big goals, this conversation is going to inspire you. Let's get into it. Hi, Haleigh. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. We're going to have a good time.
The first question is, when did you first fall in love with volleyball? And did you always imagine you would be an Olympic athlete?
Oof, I love this question. I first fell in love with volleyball when I was about 12 years old. So I really wanted to play football. That was like my dream, is I was going to be a really great wide receiver because I was kind of a tomboy growing up.
Yeah.
But my dad said, absolutely not. You're not allowed to play football. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get a concussion. And so he's like, you have to play another sport. And so some of my friends were headed to a volleyball tryout. And I was like, fine, I'll go play volleyball, even though it's kind of a girly sport, which at some point we need to unpack how volleyball has this like really girly, hyper feminine brand. But that's neither here nor there. We'll do that in another chat. So I went to this volleyball tryout and I immediately fell in love with it. Like I loved just the game. I loved the physical skills. Like I loved serving. I loved attacking because it feels so good to just bounce a ball. And it made sense to me. The footwork made sense. The serving like technique made sense. I was obsessed with it. But I really never had dreams of being an Olympian. My whole reasoning for pursuing volleyball the way that I pursued it was because I wanted to go to college. I knew that I didn't want to deal with taking out student loans and I probably wouldn't be able to afford to pay for it myself. So I was like, okay, what do I love in life? And I made a list of everything that I was passionate about. And volleyball was like the number one. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to use to get to college. And I didn't see a life beyond that. So I had a real coming to Jesus moment when I got to college and I was like, well, dang, what's next?
That's awesome. Were the moments in high school or college when you doubted your path or considered giving up on volleyball? If so, what kept you going?
I don't think I ever had a moment where I was like, okay, I need to give up and quit altogether. Like, not in high school. There was definitely some adversity in college. My sophomore year of college, I had to get knee surgery. So I had to get a reconstruction done in my knee because my kneecaps track weird. Like, they don't track in a straight line. They track like this. So I had to get a whole reconstruction to like clamp them down so they would track properly. It's very annoying. And it took forever to come back from because it's an invasive knee surgery. So it usually takes like 8 months to get back to court play and then a full year to get back to like playing like yourself. And so my junior year, I really struggled. I didn't have a lot of pop. I didn't have a lot of strength. I wasn't moving very well. I still managed to somehow rustle out like first team All-American. And I remember going to my coach's office and he was like, I don't know how you did it because you played like crap all season, but you're first team All-American. Congrats. Because that's just Russ. Like Russ Rose, if you don't know who he is, that's just his style of coaching. He's very straightforward, not going to beat around the bush, which I really appreciated. And I said the same thing. I was like, yeah, dude, I don't know how I pulled it off either because I think my hitting numbers were terrible. And in that year, my junior year, I think was the moment where I was most like, am I ever going to be able to feel like myself again and play volleyball again? But it never got to the point of being like, I should just hang it up and walk away. It more became like, okay, how can I dig deep and figure this out so I can have a really great senior year? And I think I managed to do that. I think I had a good senior year.
I would say so.
Yeah, I think I managed to pull something off. I was never about giving up. There were some times in my Olympic pursuits, especially this last quad, with mental health issues and burnout and just year-round volleyball can be a lot on your body. And so there were moments where I was like, I want to be done. I just have to walk away. I have to quit. And every time I'd say that, my mom would always be like, you have that option. That is a choice if you want to do that. But then every time I just would come back to practice and I would keep going and I would keep trying. And so I don't think I ever fully walked away, but there were moments where I was ready to give it up.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing you kept going because
we try.
I mean, you're just an amazing athlete. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, pretty good at volleyball. I'm not very athletic. But anyway, keep going, keep going.
All right. What's one thing about being a pro volleyball player that would surprise most people?
It is not glamorous. I think people think professional athlete, and they have this vision of like football players and basketball stars in their like Range Rovers, and they have their cute, beautiful family and their big, happy house. And it's really not that glamorous, especially for female athletes. There's a huge pay gap, obviously, and it's just now getting started, these American volleyball leagues. So the Professional Volleyball Federation, PVF, started in 2024. League One Volleyball, the league that I play for, started in 2025, this past year. And AU has been going for a while, but it's such a short season that it's not quite like a full-time professional gig. So it's very, very young. So the pay isn't all that amazing. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I can make a livable wage. I'm very blessed. I'm
Yeah.
very graced. Thank you, League One, for the job. But it's not that glamorous. And then when you go overseas, you tell people like, oh, like I, for example, played in Italy for 8 years. And everybody hears that and they're like, oh, Italy. Because they have this image of like good wine and Vespas and coffee and rolling hills.
Yeah.
And that's a part of it. But a majority of the time, you're in a gym, you're on a bus, or you're in your apartment trying to recover from the travel and the play. And so you really don't get this
Yeah.
romantic lifestyle. Like it is very hard playing overseas because you're playing the game that you love in a different language. So you have to learn the language. You're far from home. It's hard for family to visit. You're super isolated. Your travel schedule is insane. You usually only get 1 day off a week, and that's usually spent traveling. So it's really not this like glamorous, everything's great lifestyle. It's very challenging.
Yeah, it's definitely some hard stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
What does a typical day or week look like for you during the season? And how does that compare to the off season?
Yeah, this is my first ever off season, I would like to say. So a typical year for a professional athlete and an Olympic athlete is you play your pro season. So pro season can go from August to October as the start date, and then it goes all the way through the winter and spring, and it usually ends in about May. So you have a very long professional season where you're playing. League One's a little shorter. We start in November and go until about April, but the typical time frame is like 8 to 10 months that you're playing professionally. And then once you're done with that, if you're in the national team gym, you get about a week off, and then you're right back to training with the national team. And you're going to Volley Nations League, you're going to World Champs, you're traveling for Pan Am, you're training. And so it's pretty much year round. So this is my first time ever having an off season because we just finished with the last Olympics. This is a year where things are kind of chill, so I'm loving it. But a typical in-season week usually looks like games on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So end of the week, you have games. So normally you'll have practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, let's say Thursday. We're playing on Friday and Sunday this week. And so the way that it works is Monday morning, you'll come in, like I go in about an hour and a half, an hour early to do rehab exercises. So practice is at 9, I get there at about 8, 7:30. I'm rolling out, I'm doing exercises, getting my knees ready. I'm an old lady, so I got to get my body warmed up now. It takes like an hour. I got old squeaky hinges. And then after that practice starts, we usually practice for about 2 to 2.5 hours. And it's a lot of, the first hour is technical training. So it's a lot of like attacking or working on our block or passing and serving. And then it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours of 6-on-6 play. So working that competitive dynamic, figuring out the rosters. After that, you get a little bitty break, like 10 minutes, and then you're into the weight room. And then we start lifting. So then we lift for about an hour and a half, do a little bit of cardio, a little ESD. And then again, if you're me, you do about an hour of recovery after all of that. So it's rolling out, it's stretching, it's getting some soft tissue treatment, it's ice bathing, it's whatever that recovery looks like for you. So you're usually at the gym from 7:30 to like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock if you're doing the recovery aspect right. And that's not including like if we have film that day or if we have video sessions with our coaches. And so that's about a typical day. And then I like to come home. If I need to run some errands, I'll go to the grocery store or like the bank, like grown-up people stuff. It's really boring. But then I get home and I love to cook. So I like to whip up a little bit of dinner. Nothing super fancy. And then it's usually just any way to unwind. So I like to use my evenings as like my unwind time. I'm super into video games right now. I started this new video game. It's called Hollow Knight. I play it on my Switch and it's kicking my butt, but it's so freaking fun. I love it so much. And the gameplay is so beautiful. So I like to play video games or I'll read. Like if I get really into a book and I'm obsessed with it, I'll read any chance I get. but currently it's video games. So that's a typical day. And then those days repeat themselves like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe we don't lift, maybe we do. And then game days, it's typically like you wake up in the morning, you have a morning practice, serve pass. We'll have a video session right after. And then we go home and chill until game time. And then it's getting yourself hyped for game time. So it's a busy week. It's like all week. We're grinding. We're in the gym for like 8 to 9 hours. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I mean, what a schedule.
Yeah.
So, are there parts of being a professional athlete that aren't as glamorous as people think? And can you share some of the not so fun realistics?
Like there's so many details that people don't realize. And then there's also the athlete details. Like injury. I'm on my 3rd knee surgery at 30 years old, which is, I know, that's so bad. Young athletes, listen to me right now.
That's a lot, yes.
Do your rehab. Take care of your bodies. Don't get surgery. So I'm on my 3rd knee surgery. I had a torn meniscus that we needed to like reattach to the bone. So it wasn't one of those things that exercise could fix. It needed to be repaired. I think it's the injury. It's the mental health side of things. Like a lot of people, including myself, struggle with performance anxiety, struggle with burnout, struggle with just the immense pressure that playing professionally can be. And then you add the Olympic stage and wanting to get a medal at an event, a major medal at a major event. And there's all those added kind of pressures, environmental, mental factors that make it really difficult. But it's still, it's worth the grind, you know? Like there's all the not gutsy parts of it, but it really is, it's still worth it.
No, injury is very hard. I broke my back earlier my freshman season. And even then, it was just the recovery was so hard. But like, I always wanted to be back on the court.
Absolutely. Because like right now, so I'm in the recovery process. I'm like 3 months out from my knee surgery. And you had asked about what I do in the off season. And this off season, it's just been a lot of travel. So I've been in like Hawaii for vacation. I've been in Utah for vacation, but I've also been in New York doing some coaching clinics. And I'm in Colorado right now with the NTDP U21 team. So it's like it's bouncing around, which is great. But because I'm recovering from surgery too, I'm also like lifting and doing lots of rehab exercises and watching a lot of volleyball. And I want to play so bad. It's killing me. I can't jump or run, but I'm like, get me out there. Put me out there. Oh,
I know. Yeah. Well, that's the really tough thing about injury. You just love the sport, so you always just want to be doing it.
Absolutely. What a blessing.
I know. The next thing is you're now sounding athlete in the new LOVB, which is bringing pro women volleyball to the U.S. in a big way. What has it been like to be part of this league from the very beginning, and what makes playing for Love Volleyball different from your previous experiences, whether that be playing overseas or Team USA?
I've been with Love since it was just an idea, since it was like a little inception. And I remember the Zoom call where they got some of us Olympians on there with the original like president and the OG CEO, and they were sharing their idea. And at this time, everybody was talking about getting a league in the United States. Because I think it was like just after we won the Olympics or like just before we were going to Tokyo. It was like right around that time. And so people were getting excited about women's volleyball. And I had been approached about like so many leagues. Like AU had approached me. And I was a little skeptical about their format because it's like constantly rotating teams. And I was like, that's tough as a middle blocker to like play on and get real rhythm with anyone. And I had been approached by another businessman who was like, we're going to start this all-star league where it's just 2 all-star teams and they play exhibition matches and they travel around and just show off volleyball. I was like, yeah, I guess that's cool. And so when League One approached me and they had mentioned their plan, I was already skeptical because I was like, oh, this is going to be another weird setup. Like they don't want to do professional volleyball in a professional way. Like they just want to make it some show for people to watch. Because that's a lot of what American sports is it's less about the purity of the sport and more about like what's entertaining. Like you look at the WNBA, things that trend are like fights in the WNBA when girls are like scrapping at each other, or like Caitlin Clark is so fun because people are like, oh, she's overrated, oh, she's underrated, oh. And people like that entertainment side. Like it's less about the purity of the game. And so I was afraid that that's what League One was going to do. But they started talking about how they wanted to integrate the club scene and how they wanted professionals to have more of a connection to youth athletes. And I was like, ooh, I really like that. And they were talking about the community side of things and really tapping into the American volleyball community. And I liked that. And so because of their plan, their baseline, their foundation, I was like, okay, I think I'm in. And then over the years, it was just talking ideas like, how do we want to set up teams? How do we want to set up courts? Where are we going to get cities? How are we going to get athletes? And it was nice being on the founding athlete board because we could give them feedback. We could be sounding boards. We could talk about like the balls that we wanted to play with.
Okay.
And so it was just nice to have that input. And so then when we started the season up this past year, it was so cool to see this little idea that we had in 2020
Yeah.
kind of come to life. And it was a full-blown season. And I had a great time. I'm so grateful for my experience. And I think League One is on the right track. I think we're doing the right things. If we keep trending in this direction, it can be something really great. It's obviously not a WNBA yet, or an NBA, or an NFL, or an NHL. But I think we're trending the right way. And there's so many young female athletes that play volleyball. I think we're going to see a lot of people have interest there. But there are still similarities to the professional game, like overseas. It's still a job. It's still, you're exhausted from training. There's still always hiccups when it comes to like travel and transportation. But that's, it's first year.
Yeah.
Like we can't afford to build multi-million-dollar venues in every city that we go to.
Yeah.
So it's this give and take kind of thing. And again, no disrespect, I love League One, but I think as the founding athletes, especially the founding athletes that see a career for themselves down the road, it's definitely, there's an aspect of sacrifice where like we're giving up more money that we could make overseas. We're giving up more fame, quote unquote. Not that we're not being recognized or not that people don't appreciate us. But obviously, people recognize more that you're an Olympian and less that you play in America. Because when you tell them, oh, I play for Love Salt Lake, they're like, what even is that?
Why?
You got to break it down and explain it all. And so we're building something so in the future, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, the youth athletes that I'm coaching right now in the USA gym can become the big celebrities. So it's like that aspect of sacrifice where we're not going to get to the Caitlin Clark level in my generation.
Yeah.
But we can pave the way for future generations. We're like the Diana Taurasi's, except not as cool because that girl is crazy cool. I'm not as cool as her, but that's the path that we're taking.
Yes. And I appreciate it so much because just on like my club, and we love watching Love Volleyball, talking about the games on our road trips. It's so fun. Yes. And I appreciate like you building this.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do. And we want it to be accessible to like all clubs. So we need to find ways that, I don't know, club athletes can get subscriptions. Club athletes can come into games. We should make raffles where you guys win and can fly out to a city. I don't know. It just, we have this great market and this great community that we want to tap into. And so can we make it as accessible as possible? I think is key.
So why do you think Love Volleyball approach of building like community between club and pro matters for the future of volleyball and for players like me who dream on playing professionally one day?
Yeah, really great question. I think that the whole reason that Love used this approach in getting the clubs involved was because that's where the volleyball market really is. Like, sports in America are still a very male-dominated sphere. I think we're starting to see a trend where people are getting more excited and paying more attention to women's sports. You can call it the Caitlin Clark effect or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
But women's sports are growing. People are watching the women's soccer league even more. Denver's getting an expansion city. Women's rugby is starting to take off. They're getting thousands of viewers, and women's hockey is taking off. And so it's just women's sports are really starting to get a platform and a stage here in America. And so I think the reason that we wanted to tap into the youth and club side of things was because even though it's trending this way, there's a whole untapped market of youth athletes that play our sport that just don't get to see it a lot. You know what I mean? Like even now, like after our first season, it's still hard to stream because streaming services are a whole nightmare. Let's not unpack the nightmare that is streaming services. But back in my day, when I was a kid in the 1900s, you could just pop I'm stealing that line from Stacey Sikora. You could just pop the TV on and my dad could pull up Sports Center and boom, a football game was on. Or you could flip the channel, 2 channels, and boom, you're watching fall spring training or whatever. But that accessibility isn't the same now. And so if we directly just tap into club athletes and we're like, hey, you can watch us on here with this streaming service, we are already getting a great number of viewers. Now it's just, can we make it so those viewers are constantly able to watch? And so it's super simplified and we can have that kind of connection. And then I also love that pros are going into these club markets and interacting with these kids and coaching them and giving them the steps and showing them like, this is how you can become a pro. This is the advice that we have for you if I could change something. And so you can see in real time, like these athletes that are in front of you. Before, there really weren't professional athletes that you looked up to. It was a lot of like college athletes. Like I talk to youth kids now and they're like, oh, Destiny Hooker was so great at Texas. Or, oh, I loved watching Lauren Carlini at Wisconsin. And they're these collegiate athletes. And I think that's as far as we conceptualize great volleyball players here. But if you look and you see these collegiate athletes go play professionally or international volleyball, they're getting their butts whooped. My first few years when I was overseas, I was getting my butt whooped because I was just this little college kid, because college volleyball isn't quite as competitive or as physical as international volleyball. And so we're bringing that professional side of things and showing you like, yes, these college kids are good, but look at how much better they can be when they go pro. And so now club athletes have even more mentors that they can look up to, and they can see just how great they can be. And they don't even have to be Olympians. Like that could be and should be a goal to go to the Olympics, but it doesn't have to be the goal. It can just be, I want to play pro and I can do that here.
I think that's amazing. And just seeing that dream of becoming this like insane, like Harper Murray athlete is not just in college anymore. And it's like at such a bigger level. And it's just very inspiring for younger athletes like me.
Absolutely. And I love that. I hope that it is something that you guys can look forward to. And it doesn't have to be the end all be all, but just that it's there, I think is the amazing.
Yes. And it's like going from when I'm at my dad's house, it's always baseball on the TV. And this year it switched from being baseball to being volleyball. And that was like the best switch ever.
Absolutely. And I think that that's what we want to see, is we want to see it on people's TVs. And like we come to these club tournaments and we want to get these club athletes to come watch pro volleyball. And I don't know, it's got to start somewhere. We're getting there.
I know. And it's growing. It's growing big. Just in this year alone, it was so weird having this whole new like volleyball to watch, like out of nowhere. It's great. I loved it.
Well, it's nice because, again, when I was growing up, when I was in college, the only volleyball that I watched that was professional was when the Olympics were on. Like, I remember we were going through preseason and we were watching the Rio Olympics. And I was like, this is so great. We can watch them play all day, at any time volleyball's going to be on.
Yes.
And I remember when it ended, I was like, man, I wish we could watch more volleyball.
I know.
And so now, hopefully, that can be a thing where you can watch volleyball year round. You can watch it during the pro seasons, and then in the summertime, even when it's not an Olympic year, there's more streaming for VNL, for world champs. So there's more ways to watch volleyball year round.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing.
Heck yeah.
All right. So what's your favorite volleyball memory so far? Is there a specific moment that stands out?
I think I have recency bias because I've been talking so much about the Olympics, because I've gone on these little tours and like been coaching, and everybody asks about the Olympic Games. So one of my favorite memories is watching that last point fall in the Tokyo Olympics when we won the gold medal versus Brazil. That was just the greatest moment of all time. The feeling of relief washing over you of, oh my gosh, we did it, of celebrating with this group of women that you loved and cared for and worked with for so long. And so like that moment is definitely like a core memory. But I also have those moments like at Penn State when you run, or like we would have a Penn State tradition where you run around the full gym of Rec Hall and then you come out and you like slap hands of all the like little kids that are standing there. And I loved that too, because it was like, these are the girls that I'm a role model for and I can be a mentor for. And so I loved that connection to the community. Like that's a core memory. And then I have memories of just like being in Italy and like playing volleyball games and my sister's coming to visit me. And so we have a volleyball game one night, and then we get in the car and we drive up into the Dolomites and like in the mountains of Italy. And we get to spend time in the mountains of Italy, or we're going to a spa in Tuscany, and those like off-court memories that volleyball provided me. So I don't know how I can pick any one, but there are loads, and volleyball has really given me a real run for my money. It's whooped my butt. Don't get me wrong. It's put me in some of the darkest places of my life, but it's also given me, yes, these very core, strong memories that I'm just like, I love. Oh, okay, wait, one more thing. I had it. My favorite memory of all time. Last Olympics, it's still Olympics related. We were in Paris, and this past Olympics was really, really hard on the team. We didn't have the culture that we had in Tokyo. In fact, it was really, I don't want to say toxic because that word is thrown around so much, but definitely very hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard team to be a part of. It was a really hard gym and space to compete in. So the fact that we got a medal was a testament to just our ability to push through adversity. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But I remember one day we had just a really rough go of it. Like we were all just so frustrated. This group was frustrated at this group on the team. This group was frustrated at that group on the team. Everybody's frustrated at everybody. The coaching staff's pissed off.
Yeah.
It was very tense. And so I took my group of friends that we hung out with and we went down. They had this like Corona Zero bar because they had like beers that didn't have any alcohol in them. It was like a lounge that you could go hang out in. And sitting with my friends, and we all got to kind of vent our frustrations and be heard, which was really nice. It was really, it's so, I think, healthy to be able to vent and just say things to get it off your chest. And then people be like, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
We have your back. We get it. And it was just so gratifying to really feel that support system and the people that had my back and to just laugh and be with my friends. Like, I think that's my favorite volleyball memory.
So what's been the biggest challenge or low point of your volleyball career, and how did you deal with it?
The biggest challenge or low point, I just have so many to choose from. I really do. I really do. I think my lowest point was probably 2023. We were just training so hard and it was so heavy on the body. I still had this torn meniscus that I just kept playing on because I didn't realize how severe the tear was. Like I've had tears before and it's like not that big a deal. You don't really need a meniscus all that much.
Yeah.
But we had been training so hard and the meniscus was so worn down. I started to get these bone bruises in my like tibia, fibia, and patella. Because since the meniscus was torn, it wasn't catching him. It wasn't catching my bones. So every time I would jump or land, my bones would just collide into each other.
Yeah.
So I had all of this pain in my knee. And like I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So I just played through it. I was like, whatever, let me just pop some ibuprofen. I'll be okay. But it was blinding pain. And I learned after the fact that when your knee experiences a certain degree of pain, it'll just shut your whole leg off. So your quad will shut off, your calf will stop firing, your like micro muscles will just stop working altogether because it's your knee telling your body we have to completely stop. We have to shut it down. But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to play volleyball how I know how to play volleyball, and I can't jump. I don't have any pop or movement. Like I'm in a crazy amount of pain. And at that point, I just thought that I was bad at volleyball because I didn't realize how severe the injury was and how much it was impacting my play. So I remember my sister was visiting me in California, and I think every night after practice, I would come home. I lived in a van at this time. I was living out of my little camper van, Charlie. So I would come back to my RV park where my camper was, and my sister would be hanging out inside, and I would come inside, and I would just have a breakdown. Like I would be just sobbing my eyes out, like so frustrated at how much we were training and frustrated at how I couldn't keep up, frustrated that I was going to lose my spot. I was going to have to quit or I was going to get cut. And just, it was such a low, low point. And then I went overseas and I was still dealing with this injury. And so I missed a lot of preseason. I missed a lot of like the first couple months because I had to take a month off to let the bone bruise heal. And because of that, I didn't really secure a starting spot in our lineup. So I wasn't playing as much. And then when I did play, if any middle blockers are out there, we have to be perfect and on all the time or else we get subbed out. There's really not a lot of flexibility. So I had to be on. And if I wasn't on, I was getting subbed out. And I remember, again, just being so frustrated. And not to get too dark or encourage this behavior, but it got to the point where there was like self-harm involved, where it was very unhealthy behaviors as far as coping goes, like staying up way, way late at night until like 3 or 4 in the morning, just lying in this depressive funk, and then pounding coffee to get through the next day, and then repeating the process and just being like the shell of a human because of this burnout, because of this injury, because I just really didn't feel like myself. Honestly, I don't really think I came up with like a healthy coping mechanism to get through it. I think I just kept going one day at a time. And sometimes that's the only thing you can do. Is it's not always about beating the mental health issue or overcoming the adversity. Sometimes it's just a win if you can survive it. And I think that's really what it was, is I was really in survival mode. And then by the time we were gearing up for the Olympics, I was finally somewhat healthy enough. I had a good handle and grasp on the injury. The meniscus was still torn, but whatever, we were just going to play through it. But it was at least healthy enough that we could do something with it. So I managed to work my butt off, earned a starting spot in the Olympic Games, played consistently. I think I did my job. I don't think I was a lights out middle who was like dominating the Olympic Games, but I did my job well enough that the team could do what they needed to do around me. And I think sometimes that's the best role to be, is you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be good. And I think I did that. And so, yeah, I think like my adversity story, I wish it was more, I came up with these answers and these solutions and I conquered it, but really it was more about just surviving it and getting through to the other side.
Yeah. And honestly, it's nice to hear that even athletes who we perceive as like the best of the best, the number one in the world, have struggled with things that I feel like every athlete has struggled with on such a different scale. And like for you sharing just how it went about for you, just I think will help many athletes know that they're not alone and that even like people that are just amazing in our minds go through these dark moments too.
Yeah. And at every phase, I've experienced adversity. When I first started playing club ball and like was in middle school and high school, I got really bad tendonitis in my knees to the point where like I couldn't walk upstairs. And so you have to take time off. You have to overcome that injury. When I was in college, obviously I went through this knee surgery. When I was in high school, I had to be a 6 rotation middle. I can't pass. So that put a little mental strain on me. And so every phase of this game is going to put you through adversity of some kind. And that's why athletes become such incredible people outside of the sport. And that's why I think team sports especially, individual sports also, but team sports especially create such incredible people, because you have to learn how to handle adversity. You have to learn the discipline that comes with being an athlete. And I think if anybody's listening to this, you have to accept that it's going to come with highs and lows. If you go to college, if you go play professionally, if you're just in club, like that's the nature of the game. It's the nature of being an athlete. It's not always going to be you popping off for 40 points a night. Like sometimes you're just going to have a low spell. In college, I used to call it the funk. So whenever I was having like a rough week or a rough month, I'd be like, dang, I'm really in a funk. And I was like, well, just like every other time I've been in a funk, just got to ride it out. What can I learn? How can I get better? What do I need to do to take care of myself? And sometimes that's it. You just got to ride out the wave.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really good advice. Like I will take that to heart personally.
Yes.
And I think many other athletes will too.
I hope it's reassuring.
This question is, how do you handle tough losses, whether on the world stage or in everyday practice?
Yeah. I love when people read my resume as like an introduction, because they're always like, Haleigh Washington is a 2-time Olympic medalist and won a national championship at Penn State and a state championship in Colorado, and she's an All-American, blah, blah, blah. And they read all these accolades. And I'm like, I would love if people read the resume of every single thing I lost, because I have lost so much more in my life than I have won. And I think all the greats, not that I'm a great, in no way am I a great or putting myself on the same platform as them, but all the greats talk about that as well. Kobe Bryant talks about it in a lot of his quotes. Michael Jordan talks about it in his quotes. Serena Williams, Venus Williams, these women that are just incredible athletes still talk about the losses that they experience. I think the great athletes recognize that while a win is incredible and it's what you're striving for, it's what you're hungry for, it's the losses that make you the superior athlete. Because you can look at a loss as like, boo-hoo, I lost, I'm the worst in the world, or forget that team, screw those guys, they cheated, or you can look at the loss as like a lesson, which is my motto, is it's not a loss, it's a lesson. And I think, again, that's a Kobe quote. And then Michael Jordan has a quote where he's like, I have never lost a game in my life. I just ran out of time. Because it's this idea of like, I never lost. I just couldn't figure out the pattern. I couldn't find the way to win in the amount of time that it was given to me. And again, it's about that idea of a lesson. And so, truthfully, pure vulnerability and honesty, when I lose, I'm usually pretty pissed off. For the first 12 to 48 hours, I'm usually pretty mad. 48 is crazy. 12 to 24 hours, I'm pretty mad.
Yeah.
And I let myself be mad because I'm a very competitive person. That's just the nature of who I am. I've learned to chill out in certain areas. Like I can now play board games without freaking out too hard. I'm like, it's just a game, whatever. But still, I hate losing. I hate losing so much, and it really frustrates me, especially because in team sports, it's not always your fault. You can be doing your job, and then other people just aren't doing theirs, and that's why you lose. And then sometimes you're not doing your job and you're just playing really bad, and that's also frustrating. So I let myself feel those negative emotions. I give myself the 12 to 24 hours, depending on if I have an off day the next day, to just be mad. I usually call my parents, my dad, my mom, my baby sister, or I talk to a teammate, and I just will vent to each other. We'll be like, I can't believe so-and-so was doing this, or I can't believe I messed up like this, and blah, 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 blah. And it's this frustration, and you let it out, and you get really angry. Sometimes I'm so angry, I stack up a bunch of pillows, and I take a broom handle, and I just beat the pillows because I have to get out the anger, like, physically. Or, like, I'll go to a batting cage and just crack at balls. Courtney Thompson taught me that. If you know who Courtney Thompson is, she works with Love. So there are all these ways that I have to express my anger and get it out. But once that's done and my time window's up, I have to shut the door and be like, okay, what did we learn? And so I usually open up my black box, which is this space in my mind where anytime I make an error or I get frustrated in a game, just so I don't dwell on it during the game, I go, okay, black box. And I put it in the black box and I lock it away, and then I don't think about it for the rest of the game. So I usually take out my black box and I unpack it, and I'm like, okay, what did I mess up on? I'm like, okay, I missed this serve. I was like, that one's easy. I just was tossing the ball too low, so I need to toss the ball a little higher. Okay, let's watch this block move on video. What can I do better here? Or, okay, they were really burning us on the pipe. Like, how can we get better at working on the pipe? And so it's analyzing your game and breaking it down in a way that you can learn from it, and then you can apply that in practice. And then you move forward and you get ready for the next game. And sometimes it's a quick turnaround. I remember we got our butts whooped at Penn State. I don't know who we lost to, but we were playing Iowa the next day. So maybe it was like a Minnesota. I don't know. But we got our butts whooped, and I was pissed, and I did not play well. So I'm super mad. We'd flown home the night before. We had a home game that day. And I was, like, essentially pouting. Like, I was doing my little arm warm-up and, like, throwing a little temper tantrum like a little child, which is fair, you know? It was college, just a dumb little idiot.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. And Russ comes over to me. He's like, hey, Haleigh. And I was like, and I was pissed at him, too. He was pissing me off. So I was just a big ball of anger. So I was like, yes, Russell, what? And he was like, you sure played really bad yesterday. I was like, gee, thanks. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that constructive feedback. And he was like, but hey, we have a new game today. Can't let a loss beat you twice. So he's like, if you lose your head, your ass soon follows. That's one of his go-to lines. I love that one. He's like, so get it together so you can be better tonight. And I continued to pout for the rest of the day, but that advice rang through my head the entire serve pass and then into the game, where I was like, okay, yesterday's game was yesterday's game. Let's be locked in today. And I don't even know if we won. We might have lost, honestly, because we were really struggling that season. And so, but it's not always about the loss, it's about the lesson. And the lesson that I learned was, don't let it beat you twice. Can you bounce back? Can you have that goldfish memory? Can you forget about it, move on, and be able to compete and do your job in the next big event? Long answer. I'm telling you, man, these are long answers. You're going to have to crop some of them down.
That's what we need. And now we get to do the fun stuff. So do you have any pregame rituals or good luck charms?
I do have some pregame rituals. So I always need to have a little bit of solo time, and it's evolved over the years. Sometimes I'm just locked in listening to music and like doing my own little thing. When I was in college, it involved a lot of dancing. So I'd be listening to music and like dancing in the locker room, you know? But since I'm now old, I had to take the headphones off because I can't dance. It tires me out. And I get out there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. So I can't do dancing anymore. But I need some form of solo time. So now it's usually I go into the bathroom of the locker room that we were in, and I'll just sit and completely dissociate. I'll be on my phone, or I'll just like be staring at a wall blankly, and I just need a moment to myself to be like, okay, we're getting ready for game time. Once I've done that little solo adventure, solo outing, I will go back out to my spot, and then I get dressed, I roll out, and then I put my shoes, knee pads, and ankle braces on the same way every single time. So when I put my knee pads on, because obviously knee pads have to go first, I go left knee pad, right knee pad, and then I have to go left ankle brace, and then I go right ankle brace, and then I go left shoe, and then I go right shoe. And I have to follow that method every single time. And if I don't, I'm not the type of person who I'm like, oh my God, I messed up my routine. My superstition's ruined. What am I? Because in college, I was really superstitious. And I found that the superstitions were just getting in the way more than they were helping me. And so I've had to take a little bit of power away from the superstitions. So if I mess up my routine, I always look at it as like an exciting thing, like, ooh, something new's gonna happen today. And so I get really pumped where
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I wonder what's gonna happen. Maybe I'm gonna hit a high ball today, or ooh, maybe I'm gonna set a pipe. And so I try to look at like this altered superstition, not as like oh, we're gonna lose now. That's the ball game. There goes the farm. Like it's just, oh, something new and exciting is gonna happen today. So it's like the
Yeah.
energy is different in the universe. I wonder what great thing is gonna happen. And I try to look at it with excitement now. Those are my main
Yeah.
superstitions. And then music. Yeah, it's got to be music. For a while, I was really into classical this last season at League One. I was really into classical music. There are some bangers with classical. So I was listening a lot to that. And then in high school, I was obviously really into like, Chris Brown and T-Pain. And college, I was into really chill music. So I was really into like SZA and like really calm R&B. So it evolves. It always changes what music I listen
Mhm.
to, but it's really important.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing that because I'm very superstitious and I try not to let it take over my game if I mess up something or if
Mhm.
I forget my necklace.
Oh, yeah.
And so I like hearing your new method of like thinking of, ooh, now I get to try something new.
Yeah, like, ooh, I wonder what new exciting things. And I think that's a good way to
Yeah.
look at a superstition. Because again, when it becomes something that's like, oh, we're gonna do it's a distraction, it's not gonna help you. But when you
Yeah.
can pivot the perspective, I think it's much better. It's more exciting. It's like, oh, maybe I'll jump serve today.
Yeah.
Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yes. All right. Love it. Okay. Now, how do you relax or unwind outside of volleyball? I know we kind of talked about this with video games, but is there any other like hobbies you have?
I have so many hobbies that I've started picking up. Um, so I like to play video games, obviously. I really love reading. I really love writing. I also really like talking to myself. So I have like these voice memos where I'll just like sit and think about these ideas, whether it's about like the volleyball problem. So the voice memos eventually become these essays that I like to write. So like the volleyball problem, like why volleyball is viewed as such a feminine sport in America and why sports are so toxically masculine sometimes in America. So then I'll write these essays. So I like to write voice memos and then write essays. I've also gotten really into coaching. Like I'm loving all this coaching that I've done this summer. And so a new hobby that I've never had because I always played volleyball is I watch a lot of volleyball. I never watched volleyball when I'm playing because it just feels like it's so much. It feels like every single
Yeah.
aspect of my day is just volleyball. So I don't really watch it when I'm in season or when I was playing these past couple of years. But now that I'm a little bit
Yeah.
removed this summer, I freaking love this game. I was watching like Poland and China games and the Dominican Republic play like France and all of the USA's games, and I go on to Volleymetrics, and I like to look at what they're working on in the gym. Like I'm kind of a little stalker. I'm like, what are you guys doing? What's the focus
Yeah.
this week?
What we
But
up
it's just
to?
it's so fun. Like I love the intricacies of the game. So I'm really, really into like just volleyball. I know that sounds so jockish and lame, but I really like that. And
No.
then I got really into embroidery, like where you like have a little pattern and you stick and poke with different kinds of
Yeah.
yarns and different kinds of stitches. That is amazing. It's so relaxing and just centering. Like my sister really does crochet for the same reason because it's like I'm not looking at my phone, I'm not scrolling. I'm just kind of locked into this thing. So I play a little bit of music and I do my embroidery. So like those are the things that I like to do to take time off from just being so locked in, being in this
Yeah.
competition mode. And then I guess in season, it's similar things. Embroidery. I like to go on walks. I hate the act of getting to the
Mhm.
walk, but once I'm on the walk, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I love this. This is amazing. I should go on more walks. But it's the idea of getting up and going for the walk that I can't do.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd say those are
I
my
feel that when I have to walk my dog.
yes. You're like,
Mhm.
oh my God. Or like my boyfriend loves to go
Yeah.
on walks. And I'm like, I would
Mhm.
rather die than go on a walk with you right now, my love.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on. And then I mope and we get out of the house and like 30 steps into the walk. I'm like, this is great.
This is great.
And he gets so mad at me.
Yeah. No, that I do the same thing. All right. So then the next one is what's the best piece of advice you have ever received from a coach or a teammate?
Hands down, the greatest advice I ever received. My senior year, we were, I think, getting ready to go to the Final Four, something like that. Final Four, regionals. And I was about to go overseas. I was going to start my professional career after playing in this Final Four national championship thing for the last time. And I remember I was with my coach's wife, Lori Rose, who's the greatest woman of all time. I freaking love her. She is just was an incredible athlete, a stellar competitor, and now is just the greatest mom, both to her kids and to every athlete that walks through Penn State. She's incredible. I love her.
Yeah.
But we were hanging out before practice, and she comes up to me and she hits me with the line. She's like, hey, I know you're about to go overseas and you're getting ready for this national championship thing. And she's like, so I just want to give you some advice. When you go play pro, just remember, don't quit on the bad days. And I was like, huh, okay. And she was like, you're going to have a lot of them. She was like, as you pursue your professional career, or I don't know what's going to happen if you go into the USA gym, you're going to have a lot of bad days. You're going to have days where you struggle, days where you can't quite figure out a skill, days where you've lost every single game. And she's like, those are not the days to quit. Those are the days to reevaluate, to come up with a lesson, to figure out what's going on. And then when you finally come back to a good day, when you're on top of the world, you feel like you're untouchable, ask yourself again, do I want to quit? And now I'm thinking about all that adversity that I went through. And you asked me that question earlier. Was there ever a time in high school or college that I wanted to quit? And I was talking about the Paris struggle that I was going through. I think that's why I always wanted to see it through to the end, because I had so many strings of just terrible days. But I think subconsciously I was just locked into my brain that you can't quit on a bad day. Like, wait for a good day to come around and then reevaluate. Do I really want to walk away from this? It was good advice.
Yeah, and I think that's really smart. That's really good advice.
Lori Rose, man, she's
And I have a lot of teammates that have like expressed how they're walking into college, they're not going to be the best anymore. And that's like a worry, but it's also like a time they're excited for.
Exactly.
So I think that's a really good quote to get them through it.
Absolutely. And I remember also going to college, I was very scared because Penn State is like a big deal program. And I was definitely going to be a little fish in a ginormous pond, not just volleyball, but just all of their programs. Their wrestling's really good. Their football was pretty good at that time. So I remember being like, nobody's going to give a crap about me or who I am. And I need to really like work and earn it. And that in and of itself, my freshman year was an uphill battle. Again, plagued with injuries and but you don't give up. You keep going. You wait for that. It'll come. Like, you just have to stay patient and persevere, and you will get to where you want to be.
Yes. All right. And we have two more. So this one is, if you could go back and give your teenage self advice, what would it be?
I think if I could go back in time and give my teenage self advice, I would tell her, one, I'd tell her to chill out. I'd be like, hey, I love how driven you are and how much you want to be successful both academically and athletically. That's such a great goal. And it's going to take you a lot of places. But also, you're allowed to have fun. Like, go hang out with your friends. Go be a little social. Go, like, make an effort to be around people. And we moved to Colorado Springs when I was a junior in high school. So it was obviously a little hard to, like, find a friend group.
Yeah.
And I really was very locked into volleyball and my academics. Like, I didn't leave the house. I remember at one point my dad came over to me and was like, Haleigh, do you have friends? And I was like, yes, I have friends. And he's like, well, it's Saturday night. Like, are you going to go out and hang out with your friends? And I was like, no, I have homework I need to do. And we have a power tournament tomorrow. So I'm not going to go out with my friends on a Saturday night. I have things to do. And I wish I could go back and tell that Haleigh, like, you're gonna be okay. Like, it's gonna be fine. You can go out and be a little more social, make friends, make memories. But again, I was just so locked in that I was really just all school and sport. So I think I would tell younger Haleigh to just find the balance a little better, have a social life, and still work hard at the things you want to work hard at.
So many high school athletes dream of playing at a higher level. What is one piece of advice do you have for them?
Yeah, my one piece of advice for high school athletes that want to play professionally is, one, if you are a male athlete and you're about to go to college, you're going to get probably some chances for some big NIL money. So that's really big right now. And also female athletes. Like, there are some softball players and volleyball players and soccer players that are making stupid money right now with NIL. And to which I say, congratulations, that's great. Go make your money. But I also say, get a financial advisor. Learn how to take care of your money, learn how to invest properly, get the right things set up in the right places so you don't end up blowing through all of this money before you know what the heck to do with it. So get a financial
Yeah.
advisor, I think, is a great first step. And then my other piece of advice that I would have for youth athletes that want to play pro is make sure you 100% love the game and you love the grind. Because playing professionally is going to be the hardest thing that you do in your life. You're going to have days where not only do you hate the sport, but you hate yourself, you hate your teammates. You're going to be lying in bed one morning and it's the middle of preseason and you've gone through double days or 3-a-days and you have to get up and it's 5:30 a.m. and you went to bed at 11:30 and you don't have enough sleep and you're just like, I don't want to go. I can't go. I'm injured. I'm tired. I'm sick. I don't want to get up. And you need that love of the game, that want to win to get you out of bed and to get you into the weight room or to get you into the gym or to get you onto the field. Because that love is what's going to carry you through all that adversity. And if you're just doing it because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is kind of fun. Like, oh, I like volleyball. That's why I like football, whatever. You're never going to get to where you need to go. Because there are competitors out there who do love the game, who are going to chew you up and spit you out if you don't love what you're doing. So that would be my advice. Make sure you're 100% passionate about it, that you're willing to dedicate yourself to it, because that's what it takes. It takes having a reason, it takes having a why and a love to get through those bad days.
Well, man, I think this is very helpful for
Hope so.
me and I think every athlete.
Heck yeah, I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
that they can glean something from all the talking.
No, this has been perfect. I've learned a lot.
Yay. I'm glad to hear
But
that.
yeah, thanks for being on here.
Heck yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, how good was that? Haleigh brought the energy, the real talk, and some major inspiration. I mean, an Olympic gold medalist, a pro athlete with LOVB Volleyball, and someone who's showing us what it takes to turn big dreams into reality. Yes, please. If this conversation lit a fire under you, don't miss out on what's next. Hit subscribe right now so you never miss an episode of Get Career Curious. And if you want even more tips, tools, and behind-the-scenes stories from amazing people like Haleigh, come hang out in our free Get Career Curious community. Just head to our website and join us. We can't wait to welcome you.